Today we're hunting for hidden treasures. Wait, that's what I always do on here? Today, the players are the ones hunting for the hidden treasures because we are talking about treasure hunting games.
Gaming history is paved by the victors, both the big budget success and the surprise underdogs that changed the game. But for every game that hit its mark and found its audience, we have hundreds, even thousands, that never did. Whether a good idea poorly implemented, or a fantastic game that just never found its market, decades of gaming have fallen into obscurity. Here on Gaming Unearthed, we'll uncover the past, one forgotten pixel at a time.
Looking for treasure hunting in games is a bit tricky because it's both a very common theme and a very common minigame mechanic as part of a greater picture. In fact, you've likely seen most of the mechanics we see today in your own gaming explorations. So for the following video, we're really looking at a few rules. The treasure hunting should be a mechanic, not just a tacked on theme. So Uncharted, Tomb Raider, Spelunky, you're out. It should also be a meaningful enough core mechanic that removing it would fundamentally change the player experience. So things like Fable or Final Fantasy IX, they're also out. And without further ado, let's start digging. And now that we've spent that time establishing a rule set, watch as I immediately break them. You'll see why soon enough. In Sid Meier's Pirates, you have the tragic backstory. When you were a young lad, these bad guys bust into your home and kidnap your entire family. You end up escaping with your life, but you're forced to work on various ships. Thankfully, in the Navy, there's upward mobility, called mutiny, and you become the captain of your own ship. Despite my rules, it's really not a treasure hunting game. It's an open world life sim where you can pirate, trade, explore, do really whatever you want to get a high score. In order to pay lip service to these rules, I'm primarily going to focus on the search for booty. And I mean treasure, not trying to marry the governor's daughters. Around the world, you'll be finding maps, and each map displays a specific coastline where X marks the spot. By looking at the shape of the outline, comparing it to your own world map, you have to track down these locations in the real world. Land on the shore, march on over to the digging site, and spend a few days digging to successfully find the treasures. In addition to the treasure hunting, they have following up on clues where you'll learn the location of this pirate or this ship fleet. You sail to that location and you'll find, oh, they've moved over here now. So you follow up on these clues to try to find specific things throughout the world. If this was an optional minigame for a couple rewards, I probably wouldn't put this game on the list. But most of the systems do revolve around this minigame. You need to follow up on clues to track down people who know the location of your family. You chase them from port to port until you capture them and get rewarded with a map. Follow this map, find the location, and you rescue the family. The same thing goes for finding legendary pirates or treasure fleets. A lot of this game is tracking down locations and making use of them. Without this treasure hunting system, it just wouldn't be the same game. Even better for all of you, Sid Meier's Pirates has been on basically everything. This video shows the Genesis port, but I've also played the NES and DOS ports, as well as the 2004 reboots that are on PC, 360, Xbox, and PSP. And I know it's on more. Thing is, every one of the versions hit the same buttons and have all been a fine way to experience this game. You have plenty of ways to check it out. I really don't know too much about this one. I've read a handful of sources claim it's one of the first two 3D maze computer games, but I really haven't found enough hard facts for me to say anything much past, man, this is old. In Treasure Hunt, you spawn into a procedurally generated 3D maze and simply need to explore it to find all of the hidden treasures. In truth, there's not much for gameplay here. There's no threats, no time limit, and you can even look at a map. There's not even a proper endgame, It just says, all items found when you still wander around until you hit the restart button. While it was cool to go back and see the really early days of a dungeon crawl, it's really much more of a novelty of showing what the technology would later do, rather than this being a great game on its own. And now it's your turn to do a little digging. With this video, I really tried to focus on games that gave me intentional discovery. They would point me in a direction, they would give me clues to look for something, but it was up to me to find my way there. So what I want to hear about from you guys is, what is the number one story of intentional discovery that you've had in your explorations? What game made you feel the most like a treasure hunter? Satellaview is another one of those things that I really don't know much about. From what I understand, think of it like a TV channel. During a certain period each week, they'd stream a show called Super Famicom Hour, in which you can download this week's game to play. One such game was Treasure Conflix, by a little-known company called Squaresoft. In Treasure Conflix, you are a treasure hunter in a world of airships and ancient ruins. You are hired on to find a place called the Cloud Gate. To do it, you fly around chatting with the locals, helping with odd jobs, and just making money. Think of it as an RPG that's focused on the talking parts instead of grinding for levels. The core mechanic is treasure hunting. You pay an information broker for a clue to a treasure, usually in the form of a riddle. Navigate to the right spot on the map, pick it up with your radar, and collect your rewards. You'll then take these treasures and either sell them to a broker for average payments, sell them for a dealer for payments depending on their preferences, or put it up in the auction hall where it has a chance to skyrocket with a bidding frenzy. You'll use that money exactly how you'd expect in a talkie RPG. Buying guns and armor. You'll buy weapons and armor upgrades used in 5 specific dogfighting scenes at the end of each chapter. I will say it's a weird design choice to spend 95% of your time earning money for 5% of the game, but the entire experience is only a few hours long, and I did have a blast playing through it on stream a few months back. This game's focus on riddles and decoding the past really made for a satisfying experience just as it is. I would love to see somebody build on this in the future. Next up is Bushbuck Global Treasure Hunter. I was lucky. I was born in the golden age of educational games. We've got some legit great games out there that teach us about history, geography, and everything in between. Bushbuck is one such game. The easiest description is that it's a virtual tabletop game about identifying cities based on facts. At the beginning of Bushbuck, you're given a random selection of 5 hidden treasures. As you move around, you'll receive a random fact about a city containing one of your treasures. Decode these facts, or you can be dumb like me and follow the little thermometer in the bottom left. Your objective is to fly to the appropriate city, collect that treasure. Things get a little bit more complicated as we introduce bad weather. This creates risky trips that can cause you to lose a turn, pay tickets for repairs, or damage the valuable treasures you have in the cargo hold. If you, like me, don't have any friends, each difficulty does have its own AI opponent you can face. This allows you to keep some of the pressure you'll get from a good versus board game. Sea Rogue is the kind of game that I've seen once in my lifetime. And in case it's not obvious, I've seen a lot of games. Conceptually, it's one of a kind, and its gameplay succeeds on multiple levels. You take on the role of an underwater treasure hunter. You build a crew, and then you set off to find shipwrecks. You dive the sites and sift the dirt to find these relics of the past. As you pull up the pieces, you'll gain clues to the identity of the ship. And back out of the game we go. In the manual, there's a list of about 150 wrecks, clues to the ship's location, and their cargo manifests. You can cross-reference the treasures you find with the wreck list and identify the ship. And if cross-referencing isn't your style, you can always have the computer automatically do it or just train a crew member to do it for you. Once you've identified the ship, you can take the treasure back to port and sell it to museums or private collectors to earn profits to upgrade your ship, hire researchers to find more wrecks, or to better train your crew. I used to play this game for months at a time in really short bursts. I'd log in to find a wreck and gather some clues, log out and cross-reference data for the night. The next day I'd log back in, collect my profits, and find the next wreck. It was a chill experience that was satisfying on many levels. But this is all just the beginning. Later in your career, you attract the attention of a pirate organization that demands protection money. This leads to an entire naval combat system and the need to upgrade your boat's weapons and defenses in addition to the treasure hunting tools. Admittedly though, I usually played on easy, which delayed the pirates to the point that I barely did any of this. And if all of this isn't enough, there's even a dungeon crawl part of the game where you find metal ships and you need to swim inside and explore the inside. Again, though, my experience here is limited because it's generally a later game aspect, and I love the chill of the early game. Overall, Sea Rogue is one of the reasons that I've really wanted to do this series for a decade. It's a remarkable game that should never have been forgotten. This one is a treasure. Good exploration is an insanely difficult thing to do as a developer. When done in a way that matches the player's playstyle and skill set, it could be absolutely mind-blowing. The problem is that player skill in this regard is across the board. Giving the players an abstract hint like the name of a city or a direction fell out of favor 30 years ago. The vast majority of modern gamers are entirely untrained for actual freedom. Even us old people who are used to that, we got rusty over the years. They've spent decades with devs holding their hands. Most modern players are far more used to having a team of 100 plus designers fill every which way. It doesn't matter how bad your navigation, you're going to accidentally wander into some sort of a key point. Problem is, most of you developers, you don't have the budget to fill a map like this. If you're looking to do something deeper and more meaningful in navigation, you need to teach the player along the way. For example, look at the Etrian Odyssey games. The first quest is always to use the grid to map out the first floor. In Redwall the Scout, you have missions that all involve following scent trails and reading the compass. We can do so much more, but we need to start at the beginning.